Hello, and welcome to Setting the Standard, the podcast about wireless radio standards creation from the Wireless Innovation Forum. I'm your host and Communications Director of the forum, Stephanie Hamill. In this episode, I'm talking with Andrew Clegg of Google, chair of the forum's new highly dynamic spectrum sharing task group, to explain how the group started and where it's going. Hi, Andy. Thanks so much for meeting with me today.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I'm here to talk to you about the new task group formed by the forum for highly dynamic spectrum sharing. Can you give me a background on how it started?
Yeah, so very interesting background. As a lot of the viewers are aware, the federal government issued the National Spectrum Strategy late last year and followed that up with the implementation plan earlier this year. And one of the goals is to show how spectrum can be shared on a dynamic basis in bands that are very complex. So, for example, and not the only example, but for example, the 3.1 gigahertz band that a lot of people are talking about. In that band, there are dozens of DoD systems that operate. Some of them are airborne, land-based, shipborne, all sorts of things, but it's a much more dynamic environment than the kinds of bands that we're sharing today. So the bands we're sharing today are the Citizens Broadband Radio Service at 3.5 and the 6 gigahertz automated frequency coordination systems. But what the government is interested in is sort of taking this to the next step. And how can we share a band that has a lot more systems, a lot more complexity to it? And how can we do it on a much more dynamic basis, especially when you're talking about sharing with airborne systems that come over the horizon at a moment's notice and things. And so the goal of this new group is to basically start from where we are today and find a path that can take us to spectrum sharing systems that can operate in these much more complex environments. And so the nature of this group is to sort of collect all of the expertise that we've developed in the Wireless Innovation Forum over the last 10 years, creating the standards for CBRS and 6 gigahertz AFC, take all that knowledge base and apply it to meeting the requirements of future spectrum sharing, including the demonstration project that the government wants to do within a year and a half and things like that. So that's the basis. That's how it came about. So we're not starting with a clean sheet of paper, but we're starting with the expertise that we've amassed, CBRS and 6 gigahertz as baselines, and then where do we go from there to make sharing a lot more dynamic?
Right, and as probably everyone knows, it was the WInnForum member representatives like yourselves who created the standards for both of those.
Correct.
That you mentioned.
And, that's excuse me, that's one of the main reasons why we're standing this group up within the WInnForum is to use that embedded base of experts in the sharing domain.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect place for it. And from what I understand, the group is going to work in kind of like 2 phases or stages. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, the first stage is really just to scope out the problem. We're hoping to have some results by, in a matter of months, which in standards and government timescales is incredibly rapid. But we'll have sort of a better understanding of the nature of the problem and our goals in terms of the kinds of timescales that we want to meet for dynamic spectrum sharing. We won't have a whole fleshed out set of standards at that time. That's just not possible. Standards take a lot longer to develop. But our goal, because the government wants to have a demonstration in place 18 months from March of 2024, so basically late 2025, we really need to get on the move with this. And so our first effort will be to scope out the problem, kind of define the objectives, have an idea of the kinds of systems that we're going to have to coexist with, airborne, ship-based, land-based, and better define it. And, we're hoping that at the end of by February, say, of next year, we will have a technical report or maybe a technical specification that will lay out the parameters of how we can get to the kind of dynamic nature that we're hoping to get to ultimately.
Great. Okay, well, so you've gone over the history, how it fits into the NSS, and our goals. What about, I'm sure you want more people involved in this, so how can people get involved?
Sure. I mean, we absolutely want more people involved because, when you think about it, it's not just the, the eggheads within the WInnForum, although, we do have a broad representation in the WInnForum of equipment manufacturers, spectrum access system administrators, automated frequency coordination system operators, ESC operators. We have users of the band. We have, fairly broad representation within the WInnForum, but we really need all of the stakeholders involved, and we need everyone's thoughts because this is you think about it, this is a very challenging problem. So in this, just as an example, in the CBRS band, we really coexist with primarily one shipborne radar system. I mean, there are other radars that operate in the band, but our primary incumbent activity is related to a single radar system that operates in the band, and only a couple of dozen of those around the country. And again, there's more complications than that. There's more systems, but primarily it's that one system and in that scale. And in the 6 gigahertz AFC, we're dealing with fixed point-to-point links that are very well parameterized by government databases, by FCC databases. We know exactly where they are, what frequencies they're using, and they're not particularly dynamic. They operate, 24/7. And so we don't have sort of the timescales and the dynamic nature that we're looking to achieve in the demonstration project or the 3.1, where we may have over 100 different DoD systems that we need to take into account in the sharing. We have no idea what the commercial systems will look like. Will it be CBRS, CBSD like? Will it be constrained to indoor low power? We have no idea. We have no idea what the constraints are yet, what the commercial side constraints are, and to some extent, some of the constraints on the DoD side, we don't know yet. So we really need everybody working together so we can understand the nature of the problem the best. And we need people to come in with ideas in terms of how would they like to deploy in the band if they had access to this band on a shared basis. So everyone who may have interest in this band in the future, we really want to involve in the discussion process, so we take everybody's view into account. And I know you'll put as a link in the description of this, information on how people can join the WInnForum, learn more about us and things. But we really are member driven. We're contribution driven. We take everybody's viewpoint into account. So we really encourage people to join, come in and give us their thoughts on how we can proceed to modifying and adapting what we've done in CBRS and AFC to future shared spectrum opportunities.
Okay, great. And we will be kicking this off in person, I believe, yes. In your space.
Yes, in my office. Well, not literally in my office, but in my office building in September.
That's right. So I'll include a link to that and registration. So if people want to even talk to you personally and get their questions answered, they can.
Yeah, and if they miss the in-person meeting, they may be watching this, after that has already occurred. Don't worry about that. You can still jump in and at any time, and we still encourage people to come in and give us their viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else you wanted to add that I did not ask you about?
No, I think that's it. And, we look forward to people participating, and, please contact Stephanie at the WInnForum if you have more questions, and we'll get some answers for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Andy, and good luck with this new test.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie. Talk to you later.
All right. Have a great one.
All right. You too.